Although the day was done for most, Holmes and Watson were plenty hungry for after-school investigating. The life of the detective was a lively one when new murders were on the calendar. I love that line.
We'll be off now. Scotland Yard has requested our advice on the matter. Don't want to keep the sergeant waiting long. Let's go.
If the Yard means to consult with you, then is it in regards to the East End murders?
It is. The police have been scrambling about desperately for even a single clue.
Oh, I'm sure. The case is a source of great anxiety for London. They can't very well have nothing to share.
Miss Whiteley.
In some unusual twist, Holmes appealed to me directly despite his pressing timeline. Yes?
What do you make of this bizarre case? Knowing the danger, does it still interest you?
Is this a choice I need to make?
Does it matter when we were the only ones they rang up? It does not, and yet curiosity still has the best of me.
If I say yes, will you take me with? How shall I answer? I'm dripping with curiosity. That sounds so dirty. Emily, down girl. Ugh. This is how detectives flirt. Is this flirting? Oh, I'd say I'm very interested in the case.
Huh. Are you now? A serial killer runs rampant in the slums, and only women have thus far been targeted. What a fear.
What of it, really? If I were to arrest the killer sooner than later, no more women would be targeted. Fear is not a factor.
That is true, if you have the skill for it. Speaking plainly, it's still a bad idea to have her with us. Not for your lack of skill, Emily, but think of the danger.
I stood between two men of two strong minds. One wished to challenge me, whilst the other wished to keep me safe. Guess which one I'm falling in love with. This time.
Holmes, shouldn't we be off then? We should. Till tomorrow then, Emily. Go home straight away, alright?
Of course, I'll do just that. I bid them a quick farewell as they retired from the classroom. If I were a boy, would they have allowed me to investigate without question? They may have, but Pendleton wouldn't have. My contemplations continued in the form of a small sigh that matched my injured expression. Oh, hi, Jack. Jack's actually addressing me. This is interesting.
Hello there.
Eep! A sudden voice from behind me roused me from my thoughts. Jack?
That jump there ain't very well-meaning of you.
I cannot understand if he was impressed or soured by my reaction as he raised an eyebrow. How long has he been behind me? I didn't know he was still here. Aw, he listened to us and went and got his hand seen to. Thank you. My next exclamation came as I spotted Jack's hand. Well, so you did go to the infirmary. I could see the difference. My handkerchief wrapping was a crude solution, if one were to speak of it politely. And now my solution was dismissed in favor of clean cuts held securely in a correct bandage, to which I could only say, excellent. How pleased I was that he listened and tended to his injuries.
Never again. Can't take the smell of antiseptic.
Oh, nonsense. If you can't take the smell, then you can take care not to get injured. Jack looked away in a certain embarrassed manner that said he had no counter. It could have been that I was the victor in this back and forth, and were he injured again, he would take my advice first thing. Yet, even if he did not, he listened this time, and that alone did well to lift my heart. I know, he's already making plays.
You know.
Yes? This time he was not intimidating, but rather awkward. Very awkward indeed, with the distinct flicker of a question in his eyes above a blush that pressed him not to ask. That's how you're reading that expression, girl. Okay. Alright. I'll let you do that then.
Never mind.
You're sure? Whatever this question was, he could not pluck up the courage and dashed into the hall. Wait, Jack! But I couldn't let it end there. I followed and cried his name, and to my surprise, he stopped.
What is it?
I wish to talk with him more, see what he's really like. But what can I say to ensure I said nothing ill of his background again? Oh no. Various ideas slipped through till I recall the notes he'd written in class. Now that can work! Jack, if it's no trouble to you, I have a thought. How would you feel about exchanging letters?
Huh?
I had him more puzzled than I'd ever seen him.
Why would I want to do that?
Because... What should my response be? Well, no to this one, that's later. It's important to get on well with everyone around you, don't you think? I haven't seen you speak with anyone in class, so I thought, why not be the one to do the speaking? It's time you made some friends.
Still don't see how you decide that. I've no intention of being friendly with anyone here.
But what a missed opportunity! Think! You study here and you meet so many people quite inevitably. And I noticed how quick you were taking your notes. Exchanging letters would be much more convenient for you than all this directness, wouldn't it?
I've, never written one before.
That's alright. You ought to write anything that comes to mind. I shuffled around for the stationery in my bag. Would you wait for me? I won't be more than a minute.
If you want.
Since it's our first one, I should reintroduce myself. My pen worked with an inelegant scritch, scritch, scritch as I hurried to fill a page. For the end, I know. You'll need to change those bandages often if you want your injuries to heal. Sign my name here, and... Finished! Aw, what cute stationery! I blew at the ink to ensure it was dry before folding the letter and storing it in a pretty envelope.
Wouldn't it be faster to chat than do all this?
Perhaps, but then what would be the point in exchanging letters?
And that's to be my own problem now. Why do you even bother carrying those things around?
My stationery? It's Pendleton, my butler. He instructed I carry them in case I needed to write an emergency letter.
Letters. For... emergencies. Well then.
Jack's expression was too complex for me to read it fully. I continued regardless. I'm looking forward to your reply. You must write one now, all right?
You have an odd mind for a noblewoman. Do you know that?
My? Do you really think so?
I know so. Don't know another one who loves to pop in and meddle the way you do.
Meddling, he called it. Meddling made it sound so trite. And how could a budding friendship be anything but grand? I cannot tell if Jack understood me sincere or too headstrong to challenge, or both, but then he accepted my letter. But that he accepted my letter was enough for me to end the day a happy girl. Oh, Emily. This happy girl awaited his reply. Waited. 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 Waited until she became quite saddened. And now I'm a sad girl. It's already been a few days. He must not have liked the idea. My sighs were heavy as I entered the academy for the day. I'd made several attempts to speak with him in a friendly manner since then. Each time he would respond to my proddings with the same brevity he expressed to the world before we met. We were a splendid failure in communication, he and I. It's just not meant to be this time, girl. We'll get him. We'll get him one of these times, I promise. He said nothing about the letter when I asked. I hope he hasn't thrown it away. My gloom was building when my eyes wandered to the courtyard from the hallway. What? I could see a familiar nest of hair. Is that Jack? It was certainly him. He was alone, sitting at the base of a massive oak tree. What is he doing there so early in the morning? My curiosity, as it so often did, possessed me, and before I was aware of it, I'd run to greet him. The courtyard was silent in the morning, but welcomely so, with plant life green and sweetly looked after by those charged with tending to it. I was always energized by the scent of freshly cut gardens, and I felt as much refreshment here with each new breath. I never knew the courtyard was so peaceful in the morning. What a lovely place to relax. Does he study here in secret, perhaps? I quietly approached to keep from disturbing him. So many Jack CGs. Goodness gracious me. He's catching up with Holmes. There were no books or such spread before him, so he wasn't studying as I first suspected. Judging by his posture, rather, he simply fell asleep while steeped in thought. You can sleep anywhere, can't you, Jack? Then he must have been up all night studying. I should follow his example.
No.
Hi. He looks so tired. He only stirred once I was close. With timing so apt, I had to wonder if he knew I was there even in sleep. Good morning to you, Jack.
Oh, it's you.
He blinked away the sleep a few times before speaking in a tired voice. Did I wake you?
Only 'cause your footsteps stand out a fair bit.
Am I really so loud? I didn't mean to be.
Don't mind it. I was about to head to the classroom, as it were.
What he said was to the point, as if he didn't care to say anything more than necessary. This, I'd come to discover, was not an act in dismissal so much as what was in keeping with his personality.
What brings you here?
I happened to spy you on the way to class, and, well, I had to wonder what you were doing. It's the first time I've been here in the morning. You must be here for all the nice and quiet.
I guess. Aren't a lot of people around, and I reckon that lets me sleep well.
I knew it. He was here to sleep. Jack kept still. He made no effort to continue the flow of conversation. Right. Nearly forgot. I should ask him about the letter. Jack, about the...
Here.
What? He handed me something white before I could properly ask, but upon sight of what it was, perhaps I didn't need to ask. Aww. And he returned the hanky, too. My heart. Jack, stop making plays. This is my handkerchief, isn't it? To be certain, it was the one I had lent to him during our pharmacology lesson. It came accompanied by a small, lightly wrinkled envelope. My heart was very suddenly alight. This face. You wrote a letter for me?
I couldn't come up with food I like or special hobbies like you. You said to write whatever come to mind, so I just went with no particular thought.
Jack looked away to indicate he had nothing more to say on the subject. Even still, I could not have been more thrilled. He wrote to me. Oh, it was indeed such a thrill to know he wrote to me. Thank you. Thank you ever so much.
I'm off to the classroom.
Oh, Jack! And then he left the area faster than I'd ever seen him move. Now to see what kind of letter he wrote. I set about reading it with earnest. There we are. Dear Emily Whiteley.
Thank you for the handkerchief. If it's no trouble, please give me your letters when there aren't any people around.
I didn't intend to take so long writing this. I shall try to be quick on the next one. Sorry. Signed, Jack Millers. The ink from the last part looked a bit different to the rest. Penned a little later, perhaps. I wonder how long he's wanted to give this to me. Was he too embarrassed with our schoolmates around? I slipped the letter back into its envelope and placed it and the handkerchief delicately into my pocket. I'm so pleased to have a reply. Now to think of what to write next. A burst of energy clipped my heels as I skipped to the classroom. Jack and I would come to routinely exchange these letters, making me, as I hoped, a happy girl each time. I would be thrilled too, to be honest. Pendleton was the first to greet me when I returned home.
It pleases me to see you coming home at an early hour of late. I expected the sieve between your ears to filter my curfew upon stepping through the front door, but you have done so well that I suspect you've recently swapped for a sturdier utensil.
My memory is certainly better than that.
Your life to date suggests otherwise.
You always know just what to say, Pendleton.
Incidentally, might I ask about your smile? You look radiant this evening.
That's for me to know and you to never find out.
My. A marvelous display of cunning, my lady.
That smile of his might have worn wickedness in my response. Right. Pendleton, have you ever been to the East End?
The East End? Why do you ask?
I've realized something, you see. That I don't know anything about that part of London.
That is certainly for your benefit, as you do not need to know all parts of London.
You say that, but just because our West End is a slice of wealth and pristine culture does not mean the East End is fully absent. The people there suffer to support our lifestyle.
I suppose. However, the East End is a bottomless well of darkness. It would be content to swallow you whole if you so much as peek into its hollow.
But the paper keeps reporting those murders. It isn't right to turn our noses up at such horrors.
My lady, charitable as you are, I must have you understand your lack of influence. Even if you were honored by that ring from Her Majesty, you cannot hope to shine your light at every corner of the world.
I saw then the sorrow of one who must have seen the bottom of a bottomless well. Pendleton? What happened, Pendleton? I wonder what I should do now. Is this another one of those read, sleep things? I'm gonna save just in case. Read, sleep things? What shall I do for tonight? What does going to sleep do? Do we just completely skip stuff? Okay. Oh. Well, that's neat. So text is read if you've read it before. Cool. What happens if we read a book? Perhaps a nice book will do me some good. I reached for the first spine that caught my eye on the shelf. It was Alice in Wonderland. I didn't know why it stood out to me now. I last read it when I was small. Or to be more precise, my mother read it to me often. Alice had lost her way in the beginning, but in time she awakened from her dream and returned from Wonderland. If only one's own troubles could be solved so easily. A mystery could remain an unsolvable conundrum. A single wrong turn in my way could be forever lost. I could afford neither. I took pride in being a detective, and though I was still fresh in my role, the road to betterment was lurid. Hey! A book Mother read to me when I was a child. I'm feeling rather tired. Perhaps I should go straight to sleep. I stood from my chair and moved to my bed. I heard a knock on my bedroom door. Come in.
Forgive my intrusion, my lady.
Pendleton entered alone.
I've made some progress regarding the lady and lord's deaths. Would now be a good time to report my findings.
What did you find?
As a start, I researched old acquaintances from when they were students in London. There was nothing suspicious at first. This route proved so spotless that I began to wonder if I had hit yet another dead end. Patience, however, is a virtue in times such as these.
From this moment he presented his evidence, a photograph he procured from his attaché.
If I may be so bold as to direct your attention to this.
What might this be? Ah, it's the Queen. Let's see, who do we have? So that's Mom. The Queen, Mom. I don't know who the other people are, though. I'm trying to tell if, like, one of them is, like, Holmes and Watson Sr. I leant closer to inspect it, and Pendleton in turn made it more convenient for me to see. Several men and women were present, strangers I did not know. Father and Mother, and Her Majesty, ever glowing in her youth, stood at the center. Okay, so Father is here.
This is a record of your parents and their closest companions.
I never thought to see Queen Victoria here. Where did you find such a thing?
Somewhere surprisingly simple. I borrowed it from the archives of Harrington. After I discussed our circumstances to the headmaster, he was delighted to support a student enrolled at the academy.
What a place to find such fine evidence! Yet, how did it come to be in the academy archives?
I might guess the answer lies in your mother and father being alumni. Your mother was even the first woman to be in attendance. She, too, received Her Majesty's ring as a student. The headmaster remembered her well.
Then my father must have received his own ring while studying there. Before I became a student, I could not fathom that there were so many young ladies studying as men did for their futures. The idea was inconceivable to me, a distant concept that came with my education, but I was not so when Mother first stepped through the academy's gates. This was taken after their graduation, yes? I can see Mother's wedding ring together with Her Majesty's.
That is correct. From what I understand, this was taken as part of a reunion. Lord Robert and Lady Olivia were considered humanitarians, often dedicating their time to the slums with like-minded friends.
I never knew that about them.
It was to commemorate the establishment of the Harrington Welfare and Education Foundation that this photograph was taken. I imagine Her Majesty was there to celebrate such a memorable day.
And so the pieces fall into place. I narrowed my eyes to scout for further mysteries. Do you happen to know the names of the other people here?
I do. Next to your parents is Viscount Quincy, a merchant in foreign trade, and Earl Beckford. Here is Baron Stanley and Professor Randolph, both of whom were 1 year younger than the Lord and Lady.
Thank you. It amazes me that you've done so much in so short a time.
That is all I know, I'm afraid.
When I look at this photograph, I wonder again who would murder them. I don't understand how they could incur such hatred.
There is no one alive who can live without being hated by another. Envy, jealousy, grudges. All of these and more can drive even the most respected of individuals into a terrible place.
It's sad, but regrettably true.
I shall now contact these old friends and inquire what they know of your parents.
Very well. I'm counting on you. Commemorative photo. An important photograph brought to me by Pendleton. That was the end of that? Huh. Okay. I wasn't expecting that to end already. Jean Lupin, gentleman burglar. Now it's his turn, is it? Okay. We had the Jack episode. Now it's the Jean one. It was said to be a blissful morning. In contrast to Lady London's days of fickle weather, often outfitted by a heavy gloom of grey clouds and rain, her mood today was handsome. She wore a clear blue gown, adorned herself with a great many birds which twittered and flittered about freely, and gave herself a natural blush with the glowing sun. I celebrated this sight with the Ceylon tea Pendleton had brewed after breakfast. Its sweetness did well to stimulate my senses as I slipped away, still half dreaming. And then I saw the front page. Rather, I saw the massive photograph of a necklace too beautiful for description occupying its center. Gentleman thief Jean Lupin speaks. Odile's... Odile? Odile? I think it's Odile. Odile's eye to be his next target. I've heard of him. He is Arsène Lupin's protégé, is he not?
So he is. His flair for thievery is no less magnificent than that of whom he succeeds.
I recall his signature being to leave a queen from a pack of playing cards at the scene of the crime.
If I may, I find such behavior in a country ruled by Her Majesty despicable.
You may, and I agree. Besides that, I can't imagine what shop would sell only the queens. A deck with even one card missing is like tea that's lost its flavor.
You present an intriguing observation, my lady. There are likely no shops that sell individual playing cards, so it could be he procures them directly from a factory where they're produced. Though it is difficult to believe a thief of his status would risk being so easily traced.
But leaving anything at the scene of the crime is the mark of one who is either supremely confident or foolish.
It's little wonder he's so confident. His reputation is as such that whatever he declares he'll steal will assuredly become his.
Then about the next thing he's claiming, the one here on the front page, what kind of necklace is it?
It pleases me to see that you've gained an interest in jewelry. Sadly, this topic must be seated for another time. You don't want to be late for school.
Do I have curfew still, or is that over? The Whitechapel murderers were no longer the main point of discussion at the academy. Indeed, no one could resist the charisma brought about by the man in the paper.
That necklace is being exhibited at the Queen's house along Trafalgar Road, right? I didn't know till this morning that it has an especially rare diamond in it. What a shame something so valuable is going to be stolen. Watson, pessimism doesn't suit you. The whole affair is a headache. Everyone is blabbering on and on about the news, and for what?
I rather think it odd you, of all people, would feign disinterest.
There's no use hiding it. You're as keen on this as everyone else. I'll certainly never view it with the kind of interest you have, nor do I want to.
An impassioned debate was underway amongst our schoolmates. They saw a gentleman thief and found him a fascinating study. Yet Holmes, whose foul features invited no contenders, made himself unavailable for participation. Are you hungry, Holmes? Were you forced to skip breakfast after oversleeping?
Not a chance. I'm not you.
But your hair is so messy today. It seems you've got a bit of bed hair.
Ha! You noticed, Emily! Holmes was up playing his violin well into the night. He said he was playing so well, in fact, that he couldn't bring himself to stop. Because of that, wouldn't you know it, he overslept and had only oatmeal. Our poor landlady puts her heart into cooking us a nice breakfast, too. That's enough talk about my sleeping habits. I meant that I'm disappointed by how everyone lauds a common criminal who would steal for his own gain. Now, Holmes, see here. He may steal treasure, but he never takes lives. He's a criminal in a technical sense, but there is an admirable quality to him that cannot be dismissed.
I wouldn't say I admire him, but he takes the gentleman thief concept to a degree that is deserving of some applause.
No matter what pretty words he or anyone else uses to gloss over the facts, he's nothing more than a thief, a criminal, an outlaw. I'll never understand how anyone studying to be a detective can tolerate his felonious activities.
Holmes now had the entire class at his attention.
I can't despise the gentleman thief, but what Holmes said has merit. How do you feel, Emily?
Me? Well... I feel like this is going to be a choice. I gathered my thoughts before responding. Facts are facts. He is a criminal. I got you, boo. I agree with Holmes. A crime is a crime. If we go about glorifying a thief, where does that leave his victims? It's hard not to feel terribly for them.
Exactly my point. I've heard some of those victims were suspected of performing illegal activities for receiving his calling card alone. Those victims are now suffering from unjustified, ill-proven accusations due to the public's blind adoration. Miss Whiteley, I'm surprised to hear you say something so on the mark. It's so very unlike you.
How dare you? I have been putting hard work into saying things that you'll like. Don't pretend like this is the first time it's happened. I don't believe that last part was at all necessary. You make it sound as if I'm always off the mark.
You're self-aware, then.
Oh, and you say it with such a smug face. Others were engaged, excited, and grateful for discussion, and in turn, Holmes's nose crinkled at the bridge with disapproval. It was clear it would remain this way. You sound confident. If your opinion on criminals is so black and white, then do you think you can arrest Lupin as easily as you've arrested your criminals in the past?
I walk whatever path I feel is just. If someone were to block that path, then I'll have that person arrested. It doesn't matter who. Only the Academy's best detective to rival the latest household word, I suppose. You've been on the front page a number of times yourself. That's right. No matter the skill of the gentleman thief, he'll never measure up to the great detective.
Thus the topic was shifted to placing bets on who would best whom.
It sounds as though all of London is curious who would win in a standoff between juniors.
And you, Holmes? You've said already you would win, correct?
Forgive me, but I have no intention of playing entertainer for the masses.
Holmes picked up the newspaper on the table nearby.
A more productive chat would focus on the latest problem to arise. Thanks to his actions, there are mimics who would pilfer under the guise of being gentlemanly.
Watson caught the paper Holmes tossed and flipped through it.
Fancy that. There's been an influx of robberies these days. My God! Look at all the thefts in London alone! They used to only take up half a page, but now there's more than enough for 2 from end to end. I trust not what others say, but what I find for myself. All the attention may be going to Lupin Jr.'s devilry, but underneath that we have an array of other, more serious crimes taking place. If you aren't aware of them, then you are unqualified to be a detective. And what a pity that is.
The classroom grew heavy with doubt. Holmes, you shouldn't go around making that frightful face. If he wanted to scold others so badly, then it was time someone scolded him in return. Go get him, Emily.
Miss Whiteley, do you take issue with my opinion?
I don't, no. But if you say things so directly, people will misunderstand your intent. What you meant to say was that we should learn to see through hyperboles from the press. As detectives, we have a duty to verify if information presented is true or false by our own research. If that is indeed what you mean, then I can't agree more.
You're fantastic, Emily! They might start calling you the great interpreter if you keep this up. How'd you like to become his assistant, too? It's rather tough for me to soften all his sarcasm alone. I don't need 2 assistants, and I said nothing sarcastic.
You're right, but that won't matter if how you say the truth is taken the wrong way. The classroom door opened right at that moment. Good morning, Mr. Mackenzie.
Good morning, class. Please, take your seats. As a reminder to everyone, whilst today's front page is a good read, discussion during class is not allowed. Mr. Watson, reading the paper is not allowed either. It's time to put it away. It's not my paper.